Hey, Bert, come on out and meet all these nice people, please. Oh, all right. We really can't blame you. You see, Bert is a very, very careful fellow. When there's danger, this is the way he keeps from being hurt. Sometimes it even saves his life. That's why these children are practicing to duck and cover just as you do in your school. We all know the atomic bomb is very dangerous. Since it may be used against us, we must get ready for it, just as we are ready for many other dangers that are around us all the time. Fire is a danger. It can burn whole buildings if someone is careless. But we are ready for fires. We have a fine fire department to put out the fire, and you have fire drills in your school so you know what to do. Automobiles can be dangerous too. They sometimes cause bad accidents, but we are ready. We have safety rules that car drivers and people who are walking must obey. Now, we must be ready for a new danger, the atomic bomb. First, you have to know what happens when an atomic bomb explodes. You will know when it comes. We hope it never comes, but we must get ready. It looks something like this.
like you're from around here, man. Where you from? Oh, the station. Well, I mean, you're headed there. Why are you in a white suit then? You look like you're going to the parade. Good luck with that, man. You got a better chance of catching consumption than finding that nowadays.
But seriously, I had an aunt and she died before she even got to meet my Uncle Hal. It was the worst thing ever. They only had one kid.
Well, you wanna hear us play for a second? I know you ain't got nowhere to bleed. Come on, just listen to us play for a little bit. You know, we came all the way from France just to spread the word to you guys, alright? I am! Look. Okay, well, just listen to us just a little bit, come on. Yeah. Aw, please. It's about love. It is. It's about a dangerous kind of love. And love you turning blind too. But this is a job. I'm spreading awareness through the power of music, man. I'm doing God's work. What are you doing? Oh, trust me. There are bigger things going on than you guys. Come on. Just listen. Just for a second. Come on, please. Open your eyes. Open your mind. Yeah, that's the spirit. Yeah. We don't have seats, but you can just stand wherever you want. And there is a hat right over there. I know you're feeling generous. Yeah, the sun hat right over there. It's the one with the red band and the pink. Are those pink? Yeah, the pink pearls on it. Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's going towards a great cause. Our tour first. All right, now, people, here we go. We're proving nothing, and this is Gumdrop Button. On y va!
Boys won't stop them from bombing. Barbara Ann, you take my hand on the clouds like the sky with broken black. Can't tell if it's new.
Following World War II, the United States sought to contain the spread of communism. They devised a theory: if communism spread from country to country, the world as we know it would fall under its influence, sort of like a toppling of dominoes. Vietnam, a coastal region south of China and east of Thailand, was occupied by several parties long before it gained independence. The Vichy French and Japanese encroached on the Vietnamese and fought with the Vietnamese independence movement led by Ho Chi Minh. By 1954, the French withdrew all of its forces from Vietnam following the climactic battle at Dien Bien Phu. For his victory, Ho Chi Minh received much aid from the Soviet Union and the recently reformed Communist China. Even the southern Vietnamese joined in with the Viet Minh in their fight of independence. And during their fights with the Japanese, they received support from the OSS, the U.S. intelligence agency preceding the CIA. The Geneva Accords did not bring about peace, yet continuous division and resentment. At the end of 1960, Ho Chi Minh formed the National Liberation Front, better known as the Viet Cong, a movement specialized in guerrilla warfare, whose sole endeavor was to gain control over the entire region.
Kennedy, do solemnly swear
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
that you will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of your ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God. Vice President Johnson, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chief Justice, President Eisenhower, Vice President Nixon, President Truman, Reverend clergy, fellow citizens. We observe today not a victory of party, but a celebration of freedom, symbolizing an end as well as a beginning, signifying renewal as well as change. For I have sworn before you and Almighty God the same solemn oath our forebears prescribed nearly a century and 3/4 ago. The world is very different now, for man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life. And yet the same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still at issue around the globe. The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God. We dare not forget today that we are the heirs of that first revolution. Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century, tempered by war,
Ngo Dinh Siem, the first president of South Vietnam, and his beloved brother and chief political advisor, Ngo Dinh Nhu, were both assassinated in a CIA-backed coup d'etat led by Siem's successor, General Yang von Min. Siem was said to be far from an ideal partner for the U.S. He was said to be suspicious of anyone but his immediate family, and often frustrated American policymakers. Civilians throughout South Vietnam, which includes the Mahayana Buddhist monks, protested against Siem's rule. Consequently, Siem imposed martial law, and special forces directed by his beloved brother launched raids against several Buddhist towers, or pagodas. In the following declassified conversation, President John F. Kennedy discusses Siem and you with senior national security officials a few days before the coup.
Before I settled here, I knew we don't do anything. We have to deal with them as the years and you as the years, and the question what we do to protect our own prestige, and also we think we should have this thing continue on successfully. You got any thought about that? It's a pretty horrible conflict, sir. The new is basically anti-American. There's an element of emotional instability here. I think our position will be increasingly difficult. But also, and most important, is that everyone in the field, and here too agree with them, that what you will have in the wake of the desecration of the pagodas here in England is a drifting away of these key cadre fellows in the army, and the situation will rapidly worsen. Well, I think the choice we have to make there is that unless there's a major change in Jim Newton's approach to this whole internal problem, is to look at the fact that we're on the road to disaster, and whether we'd rather take it by our choice or be driven out by a complete annihilation situation in Vietnam, or to move in such forces as would involve our taking over the country.
Nearly a year after Siem's assassination, an incident occurred in the Gulf of Tonkin, a northwest arm of the South China Sea, bounded by China and northern Vietnam. The incident entails northern Vietnamese patrol boats attacking U.S. naval forces in waves of arms. But there seems to be confusion about whether some of these attacks took place. A storm occurred during the confrontation and may have constituted mistaking bad weather for an enemy attack. Regardless of what happened in the Gulf of Tonkin, U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson and his advisors, with the help of this hazy encounter, goaded the U.S. Congress into allowing further deployment of force
have today required me
in Vietnam
to order the military forces of the United States to take action in reply.
Of Americans born in this century, tempered by war, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage, and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed, and to which we are committed today at home and around the world. every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty. This much we pledge and more. To those old allies whose cultural and spiritual origins we share, we pledge the loyalty of faithful friends. United, there is little we cannot do in a host of cooperative ventures. Divided, there is little we can do, for we dare not meet a powerful challenge at odds and split asunder. To those new states whom we welcome to the ranks of the free, we pledge our word that one form of colonial control shall not have passed away, merely to be replaced by a far more iron tyranny. We shall not always expect to find them supporting our view, but we shall always hope to find them strongly supporting their own freedom, and to remember that in the past, those who foolishly sought power
I'm not gonna help nobody get something my Negroes don't have. If I'm gonna die, I'll die now, right here fighting you. Well, you my enemy. My enemies are white people, not Vietnamese or Chinese or Japanese.
After World War II, several countries sought to catch up with the bulk of Europe through modernization. One of those countries was Afghanistan, a landlocked region located at the crossroads of Central Asia and West Asia, east of Iran and north of India and Pakistan. Thanks to the competition between the US and USSR during the Cold War, the Afghan government received help from the Americans and the Soviets. The US constructed an irrigation and hydroelectric project in the Helmand Valley and bolstered Afghan aviation. The USSR helped with the Salang Tunnel, a narrow two-lane passage connecting the north with the rest of the country. After decades of isolation, Afghanistan finally thrived in attention from foreign industrialized patrons. Much like Vietnam and any other country looking to take the great leap forward, the government deployed students to foreign countries where they could obtain an education and bring back newfound knowledge to their homeland. Many of these students sought to acquaint themselves with liberalism and communism. The People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan, or the PDPA, was formed and divided into two separate factions. Following these events, a constitution was ratified and enacted as the supreme law until 1973, when the last king of Afghanistan was deposed in a bloodless coup by his cousin, General Mohammed Daoud Khan. However, Daoud was not alone. He received help from the PDPA and the Soviet Union. People all around Afghanistan were getting very agitated with the spread of communism and the government's alliance with the Soviets. In 1975, an uprising sparked in the Panjshir Valley. The uprising was the result of hard, cold bitterness toward Daoud's government. The resistors had support from the Pakistani Secret Service, but in the end, the Afghan government extinguished their rebellion. Years later, Daoud would stop supporting anti-Pakistan militants, proclaim a new constitution, call for a new cabinet devoid of members from the PDPA, and seek to minimize the influence of communism. With his efforts in consideration, Daoud was still very opposed by many. In 1978, the PDPA launched a revolution organized by Hafizullah Amin, assassinated Daoud, and killed his family. Matters worsened when the PDPA sought to attack Islamic tradition, a movement ignited in the form of the mujahideen, those who engage in jihad. Rebels, with the support of mutinying army soldiers, took control of Herat in 1979. The communist government killed thousands in the process of reclamation. Later that year, President Noor Mohammad Taraki, one of the founders of the PDPA, was deposed and executed by Hafizullah Amin. Once again, Amin was shaking the foundations of Afghan leadership, while another was planning to do the same. Prior to Taraki's death, the chairman of the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet gave a dinner speech in honor of Taraki at the Kremlin of Moscow. He welcomed his Afghan guests with open arms and expressed kindness toward Afghanistan, the nation's development, the PDPA, Taraki, and Amin. He described the Soviet Union and Afghanistan as good and amicable neighbors.
Not simply good neighborliness, but a profound, sincere, and durable friendship, embodying a spirit of comradeship and revolutionary solidarity. All these new features have found their reflection in the Treaty of Friendship, Good Neighborliness, and Cooperation, which we signed today. No doubt, our Afghan friends are well aware of the great efforts the Soviet Union has made in the interest of consolidating international peace and security. We believe that the main thing in present conditions is to prevent a new world war, which, if it broke out in any spot on the globe, would be a terrible calamity for all of mankind. There is no doubt that if the socialist nations were to embark upon the road of unilateral disarmament, if they were to allow the imperialists to achieve the superiority of forces they so eagerly desire, peace would be ill-served. I repeat, we are prepared to take the most radical steps towards disarmament. But the principle of equal security of sides must be observed at all the stages of the struggle to achieve this goal. We shall not agree to a weakening of our defenses in the face of the growing military might of imperialism, no matter what demagogic arguments are used to camouflage such calls. This would bring about irreparable consequences for the cause of socialism, for the cause of the people's freedom and independence. Your visit, Comrade Taraki, will be an important landmark in the development of friendly relations and good neighborly cooperation between the Soviet Union and Afghanistan. I propose a toast to the further consolidation of friendship between our countries and peoples, to the health of Comrade Taraki, to the health of all our Afghan guests.
On December 24th, 1979, USSR forces invaded Afghanistan. 3 days later, the Soviets executed Operation Storm 333.
It feels good because it was a tough piece of, when you're telling a real story, you're talking about journalism, you're not just making stuff up and figuring out, what the story is you want to tell. You're trying to figure out how best to tell what the story is.
Soviet troops fought pitched battles in the streets of Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan today. It was part of a successful effort to replace a pro-Moscow president of Afghanistan with a new leader who's even more pro-Moscow. The deposed president was Hafizullah Amin. He was, says Radio Kabul, tried this afternoon for crimes against the Afghani people. Tonight, he was executed. Moscow radio was quick to announce the coup and was openly pleased by
proud. Control to pass the clouds. We cannot see rain coming down. Can you see? Tom, can you see rain? And I love you if you let me try. I want to love you till I try. Hot coals of vengeance, let no soldier fly. With every drop of rain out for a person comes a world and bodies of slaughter. Till you see pouring into fright. Take back the night or die in the flame. From your shame and confusion, paving the way to familiar routes. You feel rain's disorder, and disorder wounds afraid. Hot coals of vengeance, let no soldier fly. He is truly dedicated to war. Josip Broz Tito, or Tito for short, was supposedly the one man responsible for upholding an entire nation. He died in 1980, and what followed suit was the complete breakup and unequivocal destruction of the Balkans, a region far west of Afghanistan, east of Italy, and north of Greece. The Balkans, or Balkan Peninsula, was home to a superregion known as Yugoslavia, Tito's kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. After Tito died, Yugoslavia was in shambles. Power was divided equally between 6 republics and 2 autonomous regions. You could say they had 8 presidents instead of 1, each with a different agenda
for how the country should be run. Prior to 1948, when the Yugoslav army surrendered to Axis forces, the people of Yugoslavia were left to fend for themselves. But they overcame the imperialistic might despite not having their army, and they drove the invaders out, including the infamous Ottoman Empire. But now, they had to fend for themselves against themselves. In the 60s and 70s, the central government placed more power into the hands of the individual. Their republics and autonomous regions had more control and influence over the economy and central government than ever before. The economy tanked in the 80s and early 90s. Salaries of employees went up and businesses ran out of money as they were giving too much out to their employees. To combat the problem, the businesses drove up the prices of their goods. But when the salaries and prices were increasing in parallel, a raise didn't do much back then. Businesses all across the country could not keep up with the inflation. They went bankrupt. The government responded by providing the unemployed with welfare and giving out money to all of the businesses going bankrupt. And this was working. Everything was fine with this system until the government ran out of money to give. They had received loads of aid from the Soviet Union and the West during the Cold War, much like Afghanistan. But once the Soviet Union started crumbling, so did their funds. The West would also stop sending as much money because when the Soviets weren't sending that much, they didn't think that there was a point in them sending that much. By the late 80s, Yugoslavia faced an economic crisis and desperately needed to secure funds. The government took loans from investors, but these investors would stop giving them money when they couldn't pay them back with interest. So the government went to the International Monetary Fund. And long story short, Yugoslavia needed to reform its economy and government if it ever wanted to receive funds from the IMF. The various republics and autonomous regions bickered over who should take the brunt of these reforms. The wealthier regions asserted that the poor ones should, while the poor ones thought that everyone should take them equally. Serbia, one of the richest regions, the richest region, with ethnic Serbs accounting for more than 1/3 of the entire kingdom, sought to attain more dominion over the kingdom. They reduced the autonomy of Kosovo and Vojvodina, those two autonomous regions located inside Serbia, and they set forth an ideal government in Montenegro, the republic southwest of them. The Serbs effectively controlled half of the 8 presidential seats. And Serbia was well on its way to becoming the supreme power until Slovenia and Croatia seceded from Yugoslavia 1991.
You can start wherever you want.
doth play their strings to his purposes, and by his hollow whistling in the leaves foretells a tempest and a blustering day.
It was fast, he said. How Boris? Sometimes, We're going to instruct you how to
yeah. And were the little pigs, was he shot?
I odmah ušao ranjivo i uhvatio za ruke i stavio nogu na noge. To je za njih. I okrenuo glavu i ugo i presjekao.
Zovem se Herak Borislav, rođen 18.01.1971. godine u Sarajevu. Ime oca Sretka. Dospio sam na onu stranu, srpsku stranu, preko rođaka, Draškić Radomira, Crnog. On me je zvao kući na telefon da idem tamo na Vraca. Volim slušati onu pjesmu Vikčevu, ona 4 frera što ode iz Cvikama. Fina pjesma, prava. Ja sam volio zabavnu muziku i narodnu, ali pravu narodnu muziku. I gusle nisam nikad volio u životu. I u Romanijano 4 volim dosta slušati. I koju uopšte mene ne liješi. I ovako sjednem u auto, s kim se vozam, navije gusle. I on ponaša se isto ko ja, kad navijem zabavnu muziku, pa uživam u tome. A kad upalim televiziju, kad nema rođaka, ovako, gleda onaj spot. To smo u Bioči, uče nas je pustio u Krista. Bio je prije radio na MUP u Bosni i Hercegovini, u Sarajevu. I obučavao nas je na svinjama. Uzme svinju, drži je za uši i obor je na zemlji dole. Uzme nož i zakolje. Tako smo mi radili. Sve. Oborimo svinju, mala svinja, nije velika. Uzmemo nož i zakoljemo je preko grla. Dole.
Kako su to nože bili?
Sam ipa prizren. To su veliki noži, ovako.
Toliki noži?
Jeste.
Dobro, koga si prvo ti zaključ, sjećam se?
Bio je, napali su nas, bio na Dragač, smo držali položaj. I napali su nas gore, okružili su nas i mi smo ih razdvojili. I tu smo ih ufatili i rekao, bili su u uniformi, oduzeli smo im oružje. Jeste.
Koliko je bilo?
6.
6,
Jeste. Bili smo ja, Zdravo Danilo i Zdravo Dragan. Zajedno. I oni su mi naredili da ih moram ubiti. I ja sam uzeo nož.
Poznavao te ljude, su to bili komši?
Nisu. Kasnije smo ustanovili da su iz Visokog došli. Od tam iz...
Borci iz Visokog.
Jeste.
I šta, uzeo s nož?
I onaj ga, Zdravo Dragan, oborio ga je na zemlji dole. Puškom udario ga je. I meni je rekao...
Koji dio?
Automatska puška, kundak.
U glavu,
u glavu. I meni je rekao da uzmem nož i da ga ubijem. Ja sam uzeo nož, uzeo ga zakrus, dole pognuo prema zemlji i prerezao mu vrat. Digao mu oko u glavu i prerezao začas. Nas djeca već izlazili. I on je izašao, obrisao noži. Naši smo bili rakije, baš bila i dva muškarce i četiri muškarce i tu 2 nane. Tu smo našli rakije, 4-5 litara. Pa smo otvorili litar i počeli da pijemo. Litar lozi. Imali smo nasve pamerke. Dječaci. I nasve tefesjanke. I jakne. I ispod džempers bio. Djevojčica imala suknicu. I gore crvena bluza. I oni su isto digli ruke. Uvisili glava. I nam je Nana. Udario mali Dragan. Vrlje što sam bio. Da ne znam to, žuri nam se. Požuri. I ona je ustala i otišli smo za njom da to donese. Ispod ormara je bilo odmah sagila si, mi smo ono otjeli iz ruku, otvorili i onda je bilo maraka i zlata. To smo odmah stavili u žep. Bacili 400-500 maraka. Zlata isto bilo 5-6 onih zlatnih prstenova. Bilo je lančića 4, narkvica 3, bilo je menđuša 5-6. To prepala sam, odšutila, drtala se. I ja se vratio, nije ništa. Čitao vrijeme, samo je šutilo. Svi su šutili, no. Onda je rekao, ruke iznad glava i izađite, vani. Svi. Ovako sam stajao. I ova dvojica ovako stajala s puškom. I on su okrenuli kraj pucaja. I 2-3 sekunde prije mene počela je paljba. I onda se ja okrenuo, ufatio za držku i ovako. Ona je bio odmah ovdje, ovako od mene i ovdje. Bio ovaj vrliš. Ovaj Sidmu bio je tamo do ormara. I onda smo rafalnom paljbom pobili. Ušli u kuću, kasnije...
Jeste li pogledali?
Samo ono vidjeli. Nismo ono dalje pucali.
Jesu vrištali?
Nisu. Brzo ono, izašli smo rafalnom paljbom.
Koliko puta?
20 sekundi možda. Volio sam na svijet. Sam odo, izađem, sjedim u kafić. Gledam, znam da je to moj grad. Da sam tu odrastao i sad mi je već stran ovaj grad. Oni su ne prikazuju komplet grada je srušen. Ne prikazuju svoj dio vam, Prešno, Novo Sarajevo, Neđariće, da su zgorile zgrade, dosta zgrada, tramvaj oni popaljeni, automobili. Gledao sam puta nekoliko puta i BiH televiziju. Kamioni su bili postavljeni duž jame, džeširina. A dolazili su jedan po jedan, gdje je uža jama, onda stajali su. A oko njega su ljudi stajali, vojska srpska. I dolje se popila 2 vojnika, srpskim trobojnicama na glavi. I uzeli su i jedan tamo, jedan vame i bacali u jamu dole. Bilo je i ranjenih i živi, jest. I onaj gore što je bio iz pištolja, automatsku i psovali mater, slimansku koji su slušali. Ja sam bio 10 metara od jame. Stajao sam u pušao cigari, nas još 3. I bilo je živi, ono, ranjenih, i što je bilo na jami, pucali su u njega. U sve, i mrtvo i živo. I kad je to završeno, bager je sve opet vojnik s onom srpskom trobojnicom na glavi, palio i zatpao jam. I mi smo se vratili, vratoviće što je ostalo na još televizora, 4 traktora smo odvezli robe u Iljaš, u Bioču. A ove ostale jedinice se sve vratile na svoje odredište. Došli su iz zatvora Šrake, jer i pošli su da rade i sporo rade u Semzotu. I pošli su da rade i malo su okolo ono zabušavali. I kad ko dođe da pita šta je sa njim, šta je bilo, počeo bježati. I u mene je bila papovka uz jednog PM. Bila mi začala, počela se raspadati. I uzeo PM i ubio. Onako, nemam snova. nisu mi uopšte s njoj povezani. Jednom mi dođe slika bijenog čovjeka, pa odjednom se promijeni to, pa se probudim oznen sav. Nije miravno kad spavam uopšte. Svijetak sam gore bio. Na 108 dolazi u san, pošto to nikad u životu nisam radio. Dođe mi u san, se probudi. Da odam posao, lud čovjek. Da opet legnem, da dođe neki drugi san.
Koji je primjer?
Dođe mi ovdje, sam zaklao tamo vojnika. Dođe mi na san čovjek. Sve ono što je urađeno. I probudim se u snu. Ležim neko vrijeme, razmišljam dosta o tome. Zapalim cigaretu. I ustanem da napijem s vode, oznem sav. Vratim se, legnem. Onda kad zaspim, dugo vremena nisam mogao zaspati. Treba da ne sat, dva. Ispušim skoro kutiju cigara. I kad legnem da drugi san dođe. Sanjam onda majku, oca. Jest. Bili smo, kad sam kući bio kapetan, kad sam na Kremešu bio, kapetan nam je Boro, to on je komandir Kremeške četiri. On nam je rekao i, ne znam, samo kapetan Boro, ima maskinu uniformu, nosi čelo. I onda mi je rekao, on i njegovi zamjenici, komandiri.
Nemoj mi govoriti. Dosadno, a? Sorry, I don't want to.
like the railroads of Atlanta, the bridges between North and South. Sherman, you burned them. Spare the hostess. Oh, South, was it your allure that put an end to this mindless cane? Empty head filled with inexplicable sensations. Endless train, dead in his tracks. Was the reason? Surrender. These senses, what came? What was such stuff? A drunken man never drinks. Succumb to the pressure. Suck his thumb on the cover. Never safe from those who peer. Down by the pier, not there. Watches his peers, pillars of kingdom, fall, tumble into wintry night. Autumn man turns to red-orange. He downs the fall of his empire. The only buzz he gets, the only high he comes to, nonsense. Land far away, mens rea eludes, conducts this brain drain from right and wrong. Rails orchestrate me off the two roads, down a path to pretense. Can you make me believe? My disbelief, I found nothing. Nowhere to go, nowhere to retreat. There's no more scent, not nearly enough to some. Up is down, no more direction, no more misdirection, no more Congress to sweep, no more counting sheep, no more going to sleep. just in there.
During World War II, the atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan, in August of 1945, more than 5 decades before the September 11 attacks. However, ordnance did not end the war in Asia. It never did. The Japanese conquered several parts of China well before World War II and relentlessly continued to fight after the deployment of the atomic bombs. It wasn't until September 1945 that the Chinese forces finally drove out the Japanese. Afterward, the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, led by Mao Zedong, expanded west across East Asia. In the process of this expansion, the CCP suppressed the Chinese Nationalist Party, led by Chiang Kai-shek. They drove them out of the country just like the Japanese. And those nationalists led by Chiang Kai-shek, well, they ended up in Taiwan, made themselves home, real cozy, and asserted a manifesto on the locals. Ordnance does not end the war. It ignites the rigs of turmoil.
On December 25th, 1991, the Soviet hammer and sickle flag lowered for the last time over the Kremlin. People worldwide watched in amazement at this relatively peaceful transition from a former communist monolith into multiple separate nations. The former Union broke into 15 independent countries: Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Estonia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Latvia, Lithuania, Moldova, Russia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and on February 24th, 2022, the President of Russia authorized a special military operation. Russian troops began moving into Ukraine. And by September, Russia had utterly annexed several pieces of the nation. War ensued. The Russo-Ukrainian conflict is packed with a long and tumultuous history. If you would like to learn more about how tensions escalated to such a point, I encourage you to explore the war for yourselves. Take yourself back to where it all began. Encounter the annexation of Crimea, the invasion of Georgia, discover the downfall of the Soviet Union, the upbringing of the Russian Empire. Go back further to the beginnings of early civilization. Uncover it all. Enlighten yourself and see what's to come in the near future. Open your eyes. Open your mind. And you'll see the sea of corpses.